Meghan Markle and Prince Harry will have to leap through a few hoops when parenting their first child. Apparently, their baby won't really be theirs to begin with. The fact is, the kid will belong to their great-grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. It sounds utterly insane, but that's the way the cookie crumbles when you're a royal and married with children. Make sure you watch this video until the end to see how this rule came to be and what the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are in for. By now, Meghan Markle pretty much knows what's expected of her as the latest member of the royal family. There are a ton of royal protocols and decrees that the former actress has to follow, but we're sure she has it all jam-packed by now. However, there's one rule she'll have a tough time swallowing. It involves the custody agreement of her own baby. It turns out that the royal family has a pretty bizarre arrangement. Apparently, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth has full custody over the children in the family. So, although Meghan and Harry are technically the biological parents, it's Queen Liz who gets the final word on what the kids can and can't do. Now, this might be difficult for Meghan to accept given that she's American and wasn't born with noble blood, but will she willingly give up full custody of her baby when it's born? Sadly, she doesn't seem to have much choice in the matter, and this isn't exactly a modern rule. As it turns out, the royal custody agreement dates all the way back to the 1700s. And the reason behind it is simply insane. No matter how bizarre this rule may sound today, there's actually quite an interesting backstory to it. The rule passed during the reign of King George I. It was called the Grant Opinion for the Prerogative Concerning the Royal Family. We know, that's a total mouthful. Apparently, this old rule basically gave the king total control over the raising, education, and marriage of his grandkids. He came up with it in the year 1717 because he had a really horrible relationship with his son, George II. So he passed this legislation, which gave him supreme control of his grandchildren, even though his son was still alive. The law was legislated when King George III took the throne. Since then, this unusual custody law has remained active through the royal bloodline. That means that in modern times, Queen Elizabeth supposedly has custody of her grandkids, but she's not totally inflexible. So she'll likely let Meghan and Harry do whatever they want so long as she gets the final say. But if the Duke and Duchess want to make any type of plans, they'll probably have to check in with the Queen first, and that includes traveling by plane. We're sure that Meghan and Harry have nothing to worry about, but this age-old rule is something the Duchess will have a hard time getting used to. After all, she's pretty new to the palace and all the royal rules. But we've got to admit, this one's a bit much to handle. And with her due date approaching, we're sure Meghan is probably freaking out a bit. The thought of not having custody of her baby before it's even born would make any expectant mother worry. But like it or not, she'll have to get used to Queen Liz having the final say in the child's upbringing and education. The Queen also calls the shot when it comes to her great-grandkids' traveling plans. So she'll say when and where Meghan and Harry's kid can travel. But they can rest a little easier knowing the Queen already has custody over Kate Middleton and Prince William's 3 kids, and she hasn't messed anything up. Back when Prince Harry and William were children themselves, their father, Prince Charles, had to ask his mom if his kids could fly together to Scotland. Being the awesome Grams that she is, she totally said yes. But the Queen has the last say on other parenting decisions as well, which means she's the one calling the shots. Giving Prince Charles permission to take Princes Harry and William away wasn't the last time Queen Elizabeth was involved in the lives of her kids. In fact, Charles wasn't the only one who had to ask for her approval, and on occasion, the Queen has been known to say no. Shortly before her untimely passing, Princess Diana was not given permission to take her kids to Australia, but there were other incidents that proved to Lady Di that she wasn't the boss of her kids. In 1996, Princess Diana and Prince Charles got divorced, but custody arrangements were not included in the divorce documents because neither parent had custody of the young princes to begin with. Then, after Lady Di's passing, her will stated that she wanted her brother and mother to become legal guardians of Harry and William, but the palace dismissed her wishes because the Queen was in charge of what was best for the young royals. So Meghan and Prince Harry shouldn't expect to get legal custody of their children anytime soon. People can't help but wonder what would happen if Queen Elizabeth passed away. Queen Elizabeth will supposedly have custody of Meghan and Prince Harry's first child and future children, but Queen Bee is in her early 90s. We know it sounds harsh, but she won't be around forever, right? So in the event that the Queen passes away, the legal custody of her great-grandchildren will go to Prince Charles, who would become king. This custody agreement will also apply to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's kids as well. Like his mother, Prince Charles tends to stay out of his kids' business. So in the event that he gains custody, he'll continue to let Harry and William parent their kids however they want. And besides, it's 2019, not the 1700s. The palace has learned to be a bit more flexible when it comes to the protocols of this nature. So unless someone has a major slip-up, neither Queen Elizabeth nor Prince Charles, the future king, will stick their noses where it doesn't belong. Still, people are shocked to hear that this archaic rule is still in effect in modern times. As it turns out, there are a couple of misconceptions about this old rule. Apparently, it's not as cut and dry as it seems. Let's face it, Queen Liz might be the one calling the shots, but she's also known to be fair and pretty flexible at times. So Meghan can probably breathe a sigh of relief in knowing that she won't have to hand control of her first child over to the Queen. Besides, the royal family is vast, and the kids have a great support system full of people who love them. So something ridiculously critical would have to happen for the Queen to invoke this protocol today. In any case, Meghan and Prince Harry will always be the one and only parents of the latest royal baby, just like Prince William and Kate Middleton are with their kids. The royal prerogative is there for a single reason, and that's to ensure the well-being of the next generation of royals. In any event, the kids definitely won't have anything to worry about if anything should happen to their biological parents. Needless to say, this law must have seemed pretty unfair over 300 years ago. However, it wasn't the only law at the time which sounded crazy. When the custody delegation was once again put in place by King George III, the Royal Marriages Act went into effect. This law gave the monarch the final say whether someone in the royal family was allowed to marry or not. So, when Prince Harry decided to marry Meghan, he had to ask Queen Elizabeth's approval. Back in the day, the act gave a ruler the right to deny someone's marriage too. So when the actress first heard of this rule, she probably felt her knees buckle. After all, she had finally found the one. He just happened to be a royal. Queen Liz could have just as easily said no. But even though Meghan and Prince Harry will get to call the shots, the Queen will continue to give her input in what happens in their lives, even if she doesn't have the legal authority to do so. The Queen's primary concern is for the well-being of the members of the royal family. Keeping the line of succession in check is her top priority. So if Meghan is hoping that Queen Liz will keep her royal nose out of her business, she should think twice. The Queen still has a say in every matter, and as we mentioned earlier, that includes travel. So if Meghan were to have another child, the siblings wouldn't be allowed to travel together. Just wait, there's a reason for this madness. This rule is enforced to protect the family line. In the event of an accident, the royal family can't afford to lose two heirs to the throne. And those are not the only royal protocols the Queen had to put in place to protect her loved ones. The kids won't be allowed to eat seafood when they travel either, but the Queen isn't all about rules and protocols. At times, she doesn't mind bending a few of the rules either. Prince Charles and William haven't been together in the same car, but the Queen has allowed them to air travel together. There's also some good news for Prince Harry, who is currently 6th in line for the throne. It seems that the further down the line of succession you are, the more relaxed certain protocols are. The odds of Prince Harry becoming king within his own lifetime are not in his favor, but that's okay because that means the rules are far more flexible when it comes to him and his new wife. This is undoubtedly a huge relief for the two because they're already bending over backwards in order to adjust to the rules of the palace. In addition, the royal couple have a lot on their plate with a new baby on the way. The last thing these first-time parents need is to feel as though they have no control over their lives. And at the end of the day, Queen Elizabeth is still a grandma, and like most grandmothers, she'll do whatever it takes to make sure her grandkids are happy. Queen Elizabeth has a pretty thick rule book on what's acceptable and what isn't, and we give Meghan kudos for handling it like a boss. As a former actress, she's had to say goodbye to red carpet events and put her acting career on permanent hold. She's also had to kiss social media goodbye and stop taking selfies with fans. It turns out all of these things are a major faux pas when it comes to the royal protocol. She's also had to adjust to a pretty strict formal dress code, which means you won't catch her taking a stroll in baggy pants and flip-flops anytime soon. But a lot of the royal protocols are pretty outdated, and thankfully, they aren't necessarily set in stone. The Queen is pretty chill when it comes to bending the rules. Queen Elizabeth is a rebel in her own right, and doesn't forcefully make Meghan and Prince Harry follow every single rule in the book. After all, Her Majesty is one of the coolest monarchs in the world. Do you think this archaic custody rule needs to get laid to rest? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to TheTalko.